What up? The Duke London podcast is back. If you're tuning in, thanks for tuning in. And if you're watching, thanks for watching. We took a break, obviously, because of Corona and lockdown and life. And yeah, it was a bit stressful. Still is to a certain extent, but I'm back in a space of wanting to talk to people and be in the same room as people, like that sort of shit. So a few things to say. We're episode 12 now. We're at the Lucky Club in Mayfair. They've been very gracious and allowed us to use the space. Hopefully we'll be back again after this, but I don't know. For now, it's just this one. What else did I want to say? Oh, I've had a couple of conversations regarding kids listening to this. So I'm not going to advise against it. You know, you do what you want to do, especially if your parents give you permission or whatever. I will say that there's going to be a lot of swearing. I'm not good at censoring myself. And if you've ever met Kashmir, you know he's not either. But also just in general on the podcast, there's going to be a lot of swearing, potentially inappropriate conversations. And also, like, it's worth mentioning that this is just our opinions and our thoughts. Like, we're not telling you how to live your life or anything like that. So bear that in mind if you're young and impressionable. And if you're an adult, then you should already know that stuff. But yeah. So, what's up? I've got Kashmir Leese here with me.
Good?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right, actually.
Yeah? Like, really all right?
All right is the base level.
Yeah. Fair. So what's up? What's happening? You just put out a film. Let's start with the film.
Yeah. I just released my first independent short feature film.
Yeah.
Based on depression, black men's mental health, and some other things that I'll let people figure out when they see the film.
Yeah, and it's on Vimeo at the moment, so people can watch it free. Like, they don't have to pay nothing. Yeah. You're gonna have to help me out with the pronunciation of the name because it's in Swahili. I was gonna try it and then I was like, oh.
Kiwewe Nyeusi.
Kiwewe
Nyeusi.
Nyeusi. Nyeusi.
Yeah.
Kiwewe Nyeusi.
Nyeusi.
Damn, that's difficult. But basically, it's a Swahili word for black trauma, or phrase for black trauma. Yeah. Cool. Why Swahili?
It's weird because, you probably know me, so my favorite artist is Tupac.
Okay.
Because I considered him a male role model coming up. And the first song I remember hearing as a kid was Hit 'Em Up.
Okay.
Which is obviously one of the craziest diss tracks in the world. So the sample that they use for that is Dennis Edwards' Don't Look Any Further.
Okay.
You know when it goes, Omadeo, Mambo Giao. So that's Swahili.
So damn,
I've always been...
that's a deep link.
I know, right? So I've always liked that song and the other song, and Swahili's always been in my head. So I thought, what can I use to... You know what I'm saying? I like to have links to everything.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I was thinking if it was to do with your heritage, but you're
from Gambia.
Gambian, yeah, and Swahili's Kenyan mostly, right?
Yeah, I think so. Kenyan,
that side of Africa.
There's quite a few places.
I know for sure, like some people in Kenya speak Swahili, but
yeah.
I don't know if it's only Kenyan. Okay, cool. So that's a sick link. I like that. I was wondering if you had a reason or you were just going to say it sounded cool.
It sounded nice.
I just wanted to translate. You know when people get like Chinese tattoos? Like,
it looks all right.
Yeah, it just sounded cool. No, I watched it last night and I haven't said anything to you about it because I wanted to save it for now. I really liked it.
Sick.
I really liked it. And I was surprised. I don't want to say I was surprised at how good it was in a way of like, I'm not saying that I assumed it wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised in the way that it was good, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like, I'm always a big advocate for, like, an artist is an artist. It doesn't matter what the tools that you're using are. If you're an artist, you can just learn another tool and then you'll be good at it. So I wasn't surprised that you made something nice. I was surprised at, like I said, the way it was good. I think it was, again, I'm trying to speak carefully because I don't want to ruin it. I think definitely, like, I would advise people to watch it. It's good. I think it how do I say this? Like, it spoke to me about where you were as an artist more than I expected, or I didn't expect you to be in that place as an artist, I guess.
Right.
So in my head, like, again, going off like socials and stuff, and just kind of being in your peripheral, let's say like friendship group.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, yeah, you're doing more artistic stuff. I see you more doing like the modeling and the acting as well as dancing. So I was like, okay, he's like branching out as an artist. So when you said you were doing a film, I wasn't surprised.
Right.
But then watching the film, I was like, okay, I get how deep you're going into your art and how seriously you're taking your art, which that is the part that I didn't expect.
Right. Okay.
Or I didn't, I just didn't expect. Not that I thought you wouldn't take yourself seriously, but I was like expecting a cool hip hop guy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a cool hip hop guy who's also doing a film. So I thought maybe you'd like lean on making yourself look cool or coming off like, I'm a cool guy still. You know what I mean? Or slip some references in about your dance or your achievement. Like, you know what I mean? I thought it was something that's kind of where I was expecting the film to be. Because also when I saw it, I didn't read anything until I went to go and watch it. So I didn't know what it was about. I just saw the film and I saw the main...
that little synopsis thing.
No, the shot where you're like staring into the camera that you used as advertising.
The little trailer thing.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, it's a bit like artistic kind of thing. I knew it wasn't like a dance film or anything. I'll read what you wrote on the Vimeo.
Yeah.
It's a feature film written, directed and starring dancer, model and actor Kashmir Leese, with the editing by Ellie Howard and musical scoring by Taju Lasano.
Yeah.
Did I say that right? Yeah. All people involved are Birmingham born and raised. It's Swahili for the words black trauma, and the film is based around the effects of quarantine during the COVID outbreak, touching on subjects like depression, toxic masculinity, stereotypes, trauma, men's mental health, but specifically black men's mental health. And I think the stuff that I really liked about it was nicely done in an artistic sense. I think like a lot of the shots and the way you did it. There was one bit where it was like you were holding the phone and it was like getting tense. Yeah. Do you know the bit I mean?
Yeah.
That reference won't make sense till you watch it. But when it gets tense and then it changes, like those sort of beats, I was like, this is nice. Like you understand these sort of things. And it showed me like, it didn't seem like you just decided it last minute. Like I was like, you've done your research. You understand these things. Like, not that I'm any sort of expert, but just from an audience perspective, I was like, cool. Like it's someone kind of taking this seriously and the topic seriously as well. It was quite deep. There was a lot of, I guess, scenes where you didn't come off great in the sense, not as your character. Your character didn't come off great and like, you know, did or said or thought things that weren't great. So it wasn't like you trying to glamorize yourself or anything like that, which I think is always tough because especially if it's you writing for yourself, you're like, I'm going to look stupid doing this. And this is like the first barrier with any artistic thing is like that. So yeah, man, I really enjoyed it. What I was going to ask you is you've got in the synopsis, all people involved are Birmingham born and raised. What was that important to you to do that?
In the beginning, it wasn't, you know.
Okay.
A lot of it was kind of put together last minute, those kind of things. In the beginning, I wanted to do everything myself.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Meaning the editing and the music and stuff. But then I was like, I struggle editing 1 minute videos. Yeah. As in like, just because I don't have the patience to do it. So
yeah, it's long.
The more I went into it, I was like, yo, this is taking a lot out of me. You know what I mean? Filming it, writing a script, and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, can I really do the editing on top of that? Because I would need to research beforehand to do all the things I wanted in the film, and that would have took too much energy. And I already was expending a lot doing the film, so I was like, I need to get someone to do it. Yeah. So I was looking professionally, but it's quite expensive to get it done by a professional. And then I wanted the music to be done by Taju, Nico, which is like one of my bros.
I have to say, I really like the music. Yeah. I really like the I think he did a great job. Yeah. Shout out to him. Check it out since the
Taju Lasano.
Yeah, really nice. And not just in a way of like, it was nice music. It suited the film and the moments that he chose, like the music that he chose for certain moments.
Yeah,
really
we
suited,
took 2 days to fix the music. It was really last minute, and I gave the footage to Ellie and she did it in a week. So Ellie's basically Taju. I can't call him Taju because I knew him before that name. Yeah. Nico's
so Nico is Taju from going forward. Yeah.
So Ellie's his manager. So when I asked, and I know she filmed stuff, so I was like, is she good? And he said, yeah. So I trust him, and I was like, okay, cool, she's good.
Yeah.
And I pretty much had everything written down, the structure, scenes and stuff. So she said it's very easy to edit. Yeah. But she did add a lot of different things in there to create the moods, which is really dope.
Nice.
So it kind of just happened because I wanted Nico to do the music.
Oh wow! So it all came from that.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Right. Yeah, I think it was really well put together, and a lot of little touches that I appreciated, like the little message bubbles and stuff that came up, like just even little stuff. I'm like, no, that's a nice touch. So how much of that you filmed everything during lockdown?
Yeah.
How much of that like came from a real place, in the sense of how much of it was like it was inspired by real stuff, or it was like, oh, this is the real shit I need to record, like even if it like the actual filming wasn't what happened, but like how much of it was real?
Quite a lot, I would
Yeah?
say. Yeah.
So that's quite, you would say, like, obviously there's character elements and story elements, but most of that is like kind of reflective of your lockdown experience.
Pretty much, yeah. It's obviously because I studied acting all the way up until college.
Okay.
So it wasn't like something that I just decided to pick up. I kind of just went back to what I used to do before dance. Dance wasn't even my passion, you know what I mean? It was, acting was the passion.
Okay.
And obviously, when I was younger, I thought acting was faking a character, but really it's about bringing something from your own life and adapting it to your character and then using that. So the film,
especially if the character is relevant as well.
Basically, yeah. So I was basically playing myself, like multiplied. For film. So a lot of it was some of my real experiences. Some of it was the darkest parts or thoughts of my mind that I would never said, but popped in my head.
Yeah.
And then some of it's made up. You probably know which bits.
Yeah. I mean, there's obvious bits, and then I'm
ones.
sure there's other bits that are like put, like I said, for story and character and effect. Yeah, so safe to say your lockdown experience was a bit rough.
It was, yeah. A lot of people said they enjoyed it. I don't know how.
Yeah.
But for me, it was definitely hard, especially the first few months.
What was it that made it so tough? Like, was it just the isolation, or was it other stuff?
No, because for the past few years, I've been struggling, and it's so weird saying this, with depression, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how long it was there. And it was like really until I was in China last year that I realized something was really bad. That's when I decided to come back to England.
Was it because in China you were somewhat isolated?
Yeah.
So it gave you that like insight?
Yeah, it basically, man, I don't want to bore you with the long stories.
No.
But I try and do it quickly.
We're here to talk about the real shit.
Well, where I feel that it started was when I was in Japan in 2014. It's when I had my first epileptic episode.
Okay. You're epileptic?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know. But and I had a nocturnal seizure.
Okay.
And from that point, I think something kind of shifted. You know, I was very stressed about sleeping, because sleeping usually meant I'd probably have a seizure.
Right.
And I didn't want to take medication because I was scared of the side effects.
Okay.
So
it was more like a conscious, your conscious thoughts about these things triggered you to start feeling bad.
Yeah, but I didn't realize that at this time.
Okay.
So when I went to China in 2015, I thought it was a great experience, even though the culture shock was a bit like, yo, I could never go outside without being stared at all the time. I didn't realize that had a negative effect over time.
Yeah.
So I came back, lived in Paris for 2 years, and I'm quite antisocial, you know? And if I don't click with people, I don't hang around with them. So I didn't really click with a lot of people. So I didn't have anyone to really...
And what's your French like now? I know we spoke about it before.
It's a tough topic. I almost dislike French a bit, but that's like a personal experience, because my sisters are French.
Right.
We have different dads.
Okay.
And their dad was French. So when I moved back from Africa as a kid, my sisters were born and we were living with him. And I felt that he didn't particularly like me because I wasn't his kid.
Right.
And he only spoke French to them.
So it was like used as a way to push you to
basically. So I kind of held on to that. So I don't hate French.
It's bad association.
Yeah, there's a bad association. So I always had a block when it came to trying to learn how to speak it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I
so
can
that
understand
made it
a lot.
harder in French to, like in France, to
Yeah.
fit in or to join groups.
To connect with you. Yeah.
Because
Definitely.
even if you are getting on with the person, as soon as they speak French, you've got that little pushback.
Yeah. It's like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, I was quite isolated in Paris as well. And then I decided to go back to China again to escape isolation.
Right.
But ended up being in a worse place because I was treated very unfairly in China. Like a lot of people tried to take advantage money-wise. And I ended up staying in the house almost all the time, except for when I needed to teach.
Yeah.
I signed up to the gym. That was like a 2-minute walk from the house. Never went tried to buy equipment at home to train, never used it.
Yeah.
It was like hell. So I decided to come back, change my life, get back to acting, martial arts, all these things.
Where are you now? London?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you came back straight from China to London?
To Birmingham first,
And then
because
now
I
to London.
didn't have a place to stay
Fair.
yet. Yeah. So a year in London now.
And so when did it kind of hit you like, oh, this is depression, or like when did you start labeling it as depression?
I think probably when I came back to England, I just thought I probably knew, but I just didn't want to accept it.
Right.
Like even when I came back, I couldn't say it and believe it, because believing it would mean that I'm no longer my old self, my productive self that I missed. And I came back, tried to get back into acting, martial arts, all these different things. And what's my point?
I think you were just saying the story about lockdown and of when this stuff started.
This is why I don't like to do long stories, because I think my point.
That's what I'm here for. I got you.
So going into lockdown reminded me of the time I was in China.
Yeah,
that I just escaped from. So straight away, all that productive energy I had just went gone. Yeah, straight back into how I felt.
Because you like reverted
China.
to the same place that you were in China.
Basically, that's why it was super hard.
Right. And then I guess also that brings up all the other stuff with it, and all the memories and all that shit as well.
Yeah.
So that's tough. But I mean, you say that you were back to your unproductive self, but the film came out of it. So
it took a few months.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, bro. Like, I'm so with you. Like, I definitely don't think you're the only one that let's say that realized shit or things came up over lockdown. Like from speaking to people, I think like so many people did. I had some real stress with anxiety and stuff as well. And yeah, it's been fucking tough. I'm really bad at like blaming myself before I blame the lockdown. You know, I'm like, it's my fault. I didn't do this and this and this. And then people are like, well, it was also, you know, it's like I'm stressed because I don't have work and stuff like that. Right. Or I've got some now, but you know, like not working the way I was, and I'm getting stressed at myself. Like, oh, I'm not working hard enough. And then people are like, no one's working. Like the whole world shut down. So, but yeah, I think I definitely can understand that place that you kind of went to. But I think that's the sickest thing to, if you are in that sort of place, to use your art as an outlet for it. And I think this is the thing where it's why I'm such a advocate for having different art forms or different let's say different outlets. It doesn't need to be that you're skilled or it needs to be disciplined, but just different ways of outletting things, because you know, some people are always like, oh, I dance to express and stuff like that, and it's valid. Yeah. But for me, there's different things are appropriate for different things. You know what I mean? If I feel a certain way, I want to dance. Like if I want to battle for a certain mood, or I want to like create a piece for a certain mood. Like there's certain things I don't want to fucking dance. Like
if you want to punch someone up, you don't want to dance.
Or like. Yeah, and I think that's different for everyone. Actually, to be honest, like a lot of my I'm very non-confrontational. I don't like it. But a lot of my confrontational outlet is battling. Which is also why I think as I got older, I've been less in love with it, because I just don't care to be angry with people anymore. You know what I mean? But when I was younger and I had it's like, I might not want to fight you in the street, but I'll battle against you. I'll be a dick and I'll talk shit to you because I can get away with it. But yeah, like having said that, it's like, like say my anxiety and stuff, I don't really want to just go in session and do cypher and get down to like fucking Tupac or something. Like it doesn't do anything for my anxiety, you know? Like, so I get with the film that it's like, because you had these different, like you studied acting when you were younger, because you have different ways of outletting, you can then, when you're feeling something, choose, okay, what's the best way to outlet? And I think it's more effective. I don't know, do you feel like it's more effective having that than...
Yeah, definitely. It was funny because the original reason for making the film was that I didn't want lockdown to control my path into acting. Okay. Because right before lockdown happened, I was meant to do a screen acting course that would have gave me a show reel. And the show reel is what I need to apply for agencies and for jobs. I didn't have that, because I've not acted for 10 plus years. So I was looking forward to it a lot, but when lockdown happened, it destroyed those plans. So for those few months, there was a point where I was like, someone said to me, you can't come out of lockdown the same way you went into it. Yeah. And it was like, yo, I need to do something. I need to get a show reel done. So I was like, I want to make a show reel. But I was like, wait, show reels are basically like a compilation of your jobs, films, commercials.
Yeah.
But I was like, why not just make a film? It's like, I've got good stories, I've had good life experiences, good challenge. So the film kind of kept me together, even though it was super hard to make it. It took a whole month to film the film when I could have done it in a week.
Damn.
Yeah.
Because of what exactly? Because you needed time in between?
Just getting motivated to do it. Getting out of bed. Getting the camera on, filming it, you know, it was, everything is super hard, you know.
There's a lot in that. Like, it's a 45-minute film?
Yeah, 46
something minutes. And there's a lot of scenes in it. So I can, like, from knowing how much work goes into filming and editing, I can imagine even if you were on your A game filming, I think that would still take a while, and to get things right and stuff. And I think it must have been hard to because obviously you're going to film and then you're going to look back at the bits and see what you're happy with, especially when you're performing and doing stuff. So to be in a not great place, and then to have to, first of all, act real experiences, but then to have to look back and evaluate you acting your real experience, that's tough, you know? So no, I definitely feel you, on it, like taking a while. And I think that's better. Like, we'd rather take a while and put something you're happy with out. Like, are you fully happy with it? Anything you would change?
No, I'm happy with it, especially because of the feedback that I've got. And, you know, it's been like officially selected for like 3 different international festivals, which is that was the plan.
Okay.
But still hearing good feedback from people who have made films and stuff, it's like, it means a lot, since it's my first ever film. That's crazy. Like, one festival had like over 900 people enter, and I was like one of the top 6 that made it. It's like that's crazy, you know?
I think I can see why though. Like, I think also it's the content as well. Like, I think the less content you have, the more pristine your production has to be, I would say. Like, if you look at like Transformers films, that's why the CGI is on point, you know what I mean? But then it's like, I'm trying to think of another example, but like the heavier your story is and the more intricate, you can lean on less. And then you get like Christopher Nolan, who does the mix and it's heavy content and CGI and effects. But so I think the fact that it's well produced, it looked good, especially for like an independent, like you did it by yourself with no budget or very little budget.
Just filmed on my camera that I had.
is very well done. And then the topic and the way you did it with yourself. So I can definitely see why.
Yeah, it took a lot of time, like writing the script and stuff and putting a lot of details. There's a lot more details in it than people realize. Yeah, like a lot of people not a lot of people, like maybe 2 people have actually like written essays.
Oh wow,
about what they thought.
Yeah.
And we went through it and explained all the details, and they were like, "This film is way deeper than I even expected seeing it the first time," you know.
And I think also that's like, that speaks about your intentions and the way you wrote it, but then also there might be hidden layers that other people see in it that you didn't intend, but they take from it, you know, like, I saw this in it, or I felt this about it, which is like, gives it a whole nother set.
Which is why feedback is really good. So I appreciate those people who really took time to go in instead of being like, it was dope.
Yeah.
You know, some people did write more and it was like, okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of all the bits. But yeah, I think for me, the main thing that I liked was how raw it was, kind of thing, in the sense of how you, the light you painted yourself in, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't try and be like, oh, I'm super dope, Kashmir. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you went raw, which is like, for me, I'm like, okay, I'm on board. Like, it makes me connect with you, because I'm like, okay, he's here for the story, not to make himself look cool, if you know what I mean? Yeah. So I was in. So that was, I really enjoyed it for that, among other things. So how do you feel like, because obviously the whole thing about the film was, you know, talking about the importance of, well, I'll see the list. So depression, toxic masculinity, stereotypes, trauma, men's mental health, and specifically Black men's mental health. How do you feel like that relates to the dance scene? Like, in terms of, how do you feel like the dance scene deals with those sort of topics, or is it a good place, bad place for those sort of topics? Like,
now it's a bit different than before, I think. But before, it was never really a topic that ever came up, you know. I think in the dance scene, it's a bit different than maybe like normal people. Yeah. Because the dance scene is all about showing people how good you are and showing yourself in the most positive light. So there's really no space for you to be like, oh, I'm not okay.
Yeah. I think it's similar with like modeling and acting and stuff like that.
You always have to look on top form, and if you say otherwise, you may jeopardize something. And I think obviously as a man, there's obviously other layers to it.
Yeah.
On top of that, and then being a black man, there's more layers on top of that.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and I guess a lot of people never even consider that they could be dealing with some kind of, real shit.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm good. Okay, I have a bad day.
Yeah.
I'm having quite a few bad days, but it's okay. I'll bounce back.
Yeah. Honestly, I 100% agree with that. Like, I think even it was tough for me to even label what I have as anxiety. Because first of all, there's the layer of like, I don't want to, I always think is like, when people are like, they just like to organize their shoes in the right way and they're like, oh, I'm OCD. And it's like, that's a real thing. Like, you're not OCD. Like, and I used to work with kids that have special needs.
Right.
So the first time I worked with someone who actually had OCD, I was like, holy shit, this is a real thing. Yeah. So when people say stuff like that, I'm like, oh, shut the fuck up. But then I didn't want to be one of those people, like, oh, I've got anxiety. And then I'm like, they're like, oh, you're fine. You're just nervous. Like, or whatever. And I'm very not like, or I try not to be like, turn myself into a victim, which I think is a lot, especially men. I think that's a lot of our mentality is like, oh, don't try and be a victim.
Yeah.
But it's like, sometimes you are, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you're fucking depressed or you've got anxiety or you've got the thing. And I think it's also in a way, it's how you identify it. Like, I think, I've read something about addictions where it's like, if you have an what was it? I'm trying to think of the right wording. An addiction only becomes an addiction, I guess, when it affects other parts of your life. Right. So it's like, if you're what's an addiction? Drinking, let's say. Or
eating shit food.
Yeah, eating shit food. Or another good one is like, which I always have debates about, is like porn.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, when people watch a lot of porn, like I've heard people say like, oh, I have a porn addiction, or I'm addicted to this or that or whatever. I think drugs are a bit different because that's like a mental, I don't know. Maybe they're not different. I don't know. But I think that what I read was that it only becomes like an addiction when it starts to affect the rest of your life. If you're just watching a lot of porn or you're eating a lot of junk food, maybe that's different. I don't know. But I think it's the point when it's like you stop going to work, or you know what I mean? Or it affects, you're late for stuff because you're like, I had to watch porn before I left or whatever it was. So I think my point is, I think it's similar with these things like depression and anxiety and stuff. It's like, okay, it could be, say for me, I can only speak from my experience, but like it could be, oh, I'm just feeling nervous about something. Right. But it's like when it starts to affect, I can't sleep properly. Right. I'm feeling physical symptoms, like, you know what I mean? Like, then I'm like, okay, it's starting to affect other things. Like I can't operate normally. Yeah. And then when it starts to infringe on your life, I guess it's up to you to be like, I've got anxiety, you know what I mean? Or I've got depression or whatever. So yeah, I think that's something super important, is that we don't, at the risk of self-diagnosing when we haven't got something, we just don't, and we stay way away from it.
True.
And also I think I don't know, tell me if you feel the same, but I think there's a bit of stigma about it, and like, you don't want people to think you're being a victim. So like to say like, I have depression, it's people are gonna be like, oh, you're fine. Like you have that worry, or I do anyway.
It's funny because there was a time where dancers were kind of coming out and talking about like mental health and depression and posting videos on Instagram. I was so in the opposite. Like I thought I could never have that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm so dope, you know what I'm saying? So my mind's so strong. I've been through so much shit, and I came out good. And whenever I saw it, this is so bad, but I saw it and I was like, why are they begging for attention for?
Yeah, like you even find yourself feeling that about other people,
like, like, come on, man. Like, just get yourself together. And I really thought these things. So this is why it was super hard for me to be like, how can I say this?
Because you feel hypocritical almost.
Yes, exactly.
Do you think that you feeling like that about other people is a bit of like projecting how you're talking to yourself?
Probably.
Yeah. Of like you in the habit of feeling that and then saying, no, you're fine, get it together. So you obviously say that to other people, or it's maybe like not a shame, but like, I can't remember what I was going to say. Like you're not wanting to see them be so open because you feel like you can't. You know what I mean? So it's like almost not jealousy, but somewhere like how
jealous?
yeah, like how come they get to be so open? You know what I mean? Like that,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I feel like that might be a lot of the deal with like homophobic people sometimes.
Probably.
That it's like, how come they get to be so open with their sexuality? You know, like not. I know it's like a classic thing to be like, oh, everyone who's homophobic is gay. I don't think that's the case, but I do think there's something about sexuality where it's like, I'm not even allowed to like
say a guy's handsome.
Yeah, or it doesn't even have to be about guys. Yeah, say a guy's handsome, or I get made fun of my friends for being like, oh, that's a good looking dude, or whatever it is. Or even just in straight sexuality, you're like, I can't say all the stuff to my girl that I want her to do, you know, like, because she's going to laugh at me or something, and I've got to be the cool guy. But then it's like, you see a gay guy just being super open and you're like, no, fuck that guy, you know? Like,
yeah.
So I think it's like, there's a lot of that in different topics where it's like, yeah, people are pissed that they can't be open about stuff, so then they're like, you shouldn't be either. But yeah, no, I definitely feel you on that. But I think so so what I wanted to talk about as well is, and I think this relates, is like, okay, I'll ask you the question.
Okay.
How do you see your reputation from when you started in the scene to now? Do you feel like it's changed? How do you feel like you're seen as a person from the outside?
Well, it's definitely changed. I mean, so many things changed. I mean, I'd say I've been active on the scene since like 2009 to now. So the first maybe 5 years is definitely different to the latter 5 years. Because I was super active between 2010.
Are you talking specifically like battle scene and like
battle scene, talking about issues in the scene? Like, it was hardcore for 5 years straight. But then after that is when I moved to China and Japan and stuff. So obviously I decided, two reasons. I decided not to talk on things because I'm not in the scene anymore. So much. So
do you see yourself like that, like not being in the scene?
Well, I mean, for me, if you're not actively in it all the time, you can't speak on all issues because you can't see everything that's going on. I felt for me that was not, I shouldn't do that. I could like say, speak about the same things, but they might have changed, but I don't know because I'm not really there.
Okay, fair enough, yeah.
So, losing my point.
Your reputation and seeing how things changed.
Yeah, so the scene changed, so obviously people's perception of me had changed as well.
Yeah.
So, the second reason why I didn't talk so much, and it's because it was draining. I had drained myself completely for 5 years talking about the scene, being met with hostility and stuff like this. So I was super drained in it. So going away was okay, almost like I'm done, but I'm tired.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess now a lot of people who went around back then don't know me as that Kashmir. They know me as he's a young OG.
Yeah,
in the UK.
Like he's been about.
He's been about, and people know of me from maybe my students or other people, so like that. So yeah, I'm definitely not that controversial character as much anymore as I was back then. Yeah. Now,
would you, or like, do you regret that period, or would you go through it in the same way if you went back, or?
No, I'd go through it again.
Yeah.
It was, I think, some of the best times in the scene for many, many reasons. I think it was amazing, man. That was like, for me, the golden era of the UK underground scene.
Like, where are we talking? Like 2010?
Yeah, 2010 12. Onwards. Yeah,
it was.
It was Trocadero.
True.
The battles in Trocadero and so many competitions. Just Taboo came 2 years later.
Styles,
Funkin' Styles, SDK. Like
true.
Everything was happening in that period of time. You know.
That's true. I do feel the level is way better now than it was then. But
yeah, of course. Yeah. But there's a sense of scene or community because I was in Trocadero like all the time, so we were a community. Yeah. But the scene was like there was a community in Truck, and then there was like crews, which were like cliques. Yeah. And now that Trocadero element is gone,
it's only
still have the cliques. Yeah. You know, so for me, it's hard to be like, oh, this scene is good, like how it was. Because for me, there's no sense of community, especially going out and coming back, and there's a big change. It's like, where's the scene?
Yeah, but I definitely get what you're saying. I do think though that like because I would say I'm similar like generation, definitely not similar level, but like similar generation of dance like to you. Because I think I started in 2007 dancing full stop, and then I think like 2008, 2009 we started to be around the scene.
Yeah.
I think a little bit before people like Kieran, they were a little bit after us.
They came after,
But like I think me and you were like, let's say the like younger generation of people like Malcolm and those, like they were doing battles before, and then we kind of came in just after them, Kofi and Ivan and all them. I think one thing that I think a lot of newer people in the scene don't get is that it was a lot smaller back then. There was a lot less people. It's like all of us could fit. All of the hip hop dancers in the UK who were any good could have been at Throwdown at one time.
Oh yeah, sure.
In one top 16. So I think now the reason why I see, like, I definitely see what you're saying about the cliques and there's not so much of a community, but I think for me it's just bigger. So it's like, whereas I think all of us and even like the kind of older generation, like even like Brooke and those guys, I feel like we were a lot closer because there was no one else. It was just us. So it was like, and I think that's what, when a lot of the younger generation came in, I think they see even like say me, you, Brooke, Mechanical, like all of these people who are like maybe seen as separate, but you don't know that like we actually talk and we're friends to an extent because we were around all together. You know what I mean? So there's like some level of history, even if we're not training together every time or whatever. Like the amount of times like I call you up and ask about stuff, or like I've called Brooke up and asked him about like work stuff. You know what I mean? It's like people that maybe you wouldn't expect to
were associated, but they're actually very kind of close.
Exactly, So that's how I would see that's how I would see the let's say division, because I think there's so many more people. It's impossible to have that type of tightness. And then you've got different age groups. Like I have the utmost respect for like Evian and that generation, the younger guys, but in a real sense, like if I'm gonna go out drinking, I'm not, do you know what I mean? I'm not gonna call the younger guys, like, not that I'm not friends with them. They're all great, and like again, like training battles, like utmost respect, but in terms of I'm 30 and like they're 17, 18, 16 when they started, and it's like what do they want to hang out with me for? Do you know what I mean? Like, so we're not as tight as, whereas I think when we first came in, a lot of the stuff, Madam Jojo's Throwdown, you had to be 18 to get in. I remember even Sonny had to be like snuck in to throw down and stuff. And so I think it also naturally became, we were all around a similar age. Even the people there was some people that were a little bit older, but there was no kids. No. There was no one that was really much older. And now you've got a lot of older people. So anyway, I mean, maybe I'm being idealistic and maybe everyone's just cunts, but no, I think, like that's how I would see it. So I don't see it so much as like the division, but I do agree that there's not so much of a tight community as there used to be. I just don't see it in like a negative way, I guess. But yeah, I think, do you think this sort of thing makes it harder to open up about these sort of things, like going back to the stuff you're talking about in your film? Maybe like you're a bit older and you have a bit more years behind you and confidence even. Do you think if you were younger, you would still, like, if we talk about the younger kids in the scene, do you think they have people to reach out to if they need stuff like this, like not just dance advice or?
I mean, the times are definitely better about opening up to stuff like this. I don't know whether they feel like that, but it's definitely more accessible to talk about these kind of things. So I would hope that they feel like that. I'm not really sure, but obviously we still have that that stigma about talking about these kind of things. It's still there. But they're definitely more, people are talking about it more. So I would think that they do have, it's more easier for them to talk about stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think we, like, I'm going to include myself in this, but I feel like our generation have been pretty good at being mentors for the next generation. I don't have anyone necessarily that I mean, I've got like Dom and Lewis and those guys who, they're not so much in the dance scene anymore, but younger people that we've taken on through dance and been like, I'll look out for you, like give me a shout if you need anything. And I think if I look at all the people who was like at Throwdown, like 2010 or something, we've all got people like me, you, Kieran, like we've all got people that would like look up to us. And we can, you know, that can call us and talk to us. So I do think that's one good thing. So do you, going back again to the like the early years, the controversial Kashmir years.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that? How am I going to phrase my question? Do you feel that your methods of getting changes done, like, how do you reconcile that with now kind of talking about like mental health and stuff and feeling these things yourself? Because my thing would be that, and this is my thing, like I was maybe not as vocal. I don't think I had as much power as you, but I was definitely on the same like wave of like, fuck off, especially regarding like teaching of hip hop and people saying they do hip hop and stuff like that. But now I'm getting older. I am starting to look back and think maybe these social media things weren't the best for people's mental health, if you know what I mean. Because I'm thinking now, like, I get stuff where a lot of the like, we've been talking so much about like cancel culture and like there's so much heavy shit that's been happening on social media, even with the Black Lives Matter stuff and people feeling a way about their contributions to that and being questioned on their contributions, which I don't think is wrong. I just think it's heavy. Yeah. And it's not everyone's equipped to deal with that. So now I'm looking back and I'm thinking, these like back in the day, we all used to jump on Facebook and like cuss people out and stuff like that. And actually, you know, what made me think about it is this this guy that was teaching at Pineapple.
Oh, Winston.
Is it? Okay, I don't know who he is.
Yeah, the black guy, right?
Yeah.
So sorry for him.
This is what I was gonna say. I saw the video, and don't think it's a great video in terms of dance. Like,
sure.
I don't think it's great. Okay, I'm happy to say that. We can get onto whether or not someone like that should be teaching. I think that's a different conversation. But I think the way everyone piled onto him on social media,
I thought it was unfair.
Yeah, is a bit, and you know, it's funny. Is that's interesting for you to say that, which is cool, because I mean it shows growth. But it's just like I wouldn't necessarily expect you to say that you thought it was unfair. But tell me, like, what did you feel about that?
Even if it was back then, because it's hard to say. I don't know if I can say it like that without sounding so deep. But when I watched him, I don't think he was aware of anything, because obviously you could see that he was counting completely. The counts, like the counts all over the place. Like he had no awareness of what he was doing. He was just kind of going for it. Yeah. And I think if people just maybe have chatted to him, he might have been like cool. But it was like everyone chatted to Pineapple. Yeah. And then obviously Pineapple blocked everyone, and then everyone started rinsing him like he had done something bad intentionally. Yeah. And there was something about him that, for me, I felt that he didn't deserve that, because I'd done it in the past. I've seen people and like, okay, I'm not gonna cuss them as much, because it just seems like they didn't really understand what was happening. Yeah, you're right. And I felt that he was one of those guys, and it's like it's like they jump on the guy that probably wouldn't say anything back, but it's like you have friends that do the exact same thing, but are you going to give them the same energy? That's what I felt was kind of bad. It's like, okay, fair enough, you're jumping on Winston, but what about your brethren that are teaching that stuff? Like, will you give them the same energy? That's what I felt was a bit unfair. So
you would draw the line more at like someone who's teaching, let's say, like not great stuff, or like incorrect stuff. If we go back to the like people teaching hip hop conversation. So you would draw the line at like, if you think they're conscious of, I know I'm not quite doing the thing, but I'm just using the name to market kind of thing, as opposed to like, I'm just not that good.
Someone who, it's, man, it was a bit weird, man. I actually felt bad, man. Like when I looked at it, I was like, yo, he don't deserve that.
I think my main thing with all of this shit is that we need to have more conversations. I mean, that's kind of part of the reason for this, the podcast. Sorry. But, I think it's so easy. I've said this a lot of times. I'm trying to not like go into everything I've been holding in over lockdown. Like, I've got so many rants in me. It's like space them out. Yeah. No, but one of the things is, I think with stuff like Twitter and Instagram and stuff, we're used to condensing really complex topics into one like 3-sentence tweet or whatever. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that's translated into people's minds, I think a lot of time, is that they want to be able to say it in one tweet what their opinion is, and sometimes it's not that simple. like there's so much to that. Like even like, let's say this thing of like with Pineapple and this guy Winston and then you talk about him and his responsibility, you talk about Pineapple and their responsibility, you talk about the overall situation of teaching, what teaching means, what hip hop means. Like there's so much.
many different things.
Yeah. So when you post like, fuck this guy, you know what I mean? It's like you're simplifying a really complex thing and often like taking it out on the wrong aspect, I think. But yeah, so I think that's why I thought it was a bit unfair, because it's like, it's not saying leave him alone, leave Pineapple alone. It's just saying, let's talk, you know, like have a discussion. I also wonder how many people actually reached out to Pineapple as opposed on like a professional
like
adult way and wrote them an email. You know what I mean? It's like, I think Pineapple maybe shouldn't have blocked people, but I kind of get it. If someone's just cussing you out, you're like, I don't want to hear this shit. Or
it's business, isn't it? Like people are going to go on Winston's thing and see the comments and be like, oh, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That mess up their business. So I understand why they blocked people.
Yeah. I just feel like that should have been more of a conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing as well, is that when we're talking about like mental health and especially like men's mental health and stuff like that, it's like we can't, I think this is with all the stuff, we can't be hypocritical in these things. And I think that's why everybody needs to chill the fuck out for a second and think about stuff before they post. Because it's like, you can't 1 minute be posting about mental health and then the next minute be posting about fuck this guy. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's no consistency.
Yeah.
And I also think, you know, I was thinking about this in terms of men's body positivity. I saw someone posting about that. And I think these things that we talk about, mental health or body positivity, and especially when it comes to men, I think we can't reserve that for the people that we like.
Right,
you know, like you have that picture that was going around of like, or like the quote of being respectful of women that you're attracted to only isn't like being a feminist. It's you have to give that to everyone. You also have to do the same for men, and we have to do that for each other. Like, it can't be like, this is the thing that kind of, let's say like a hypothetical situation that pisses me off, which is like men's body positivity, blah, 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 blah. And then like if a girl says this, and then as soon as a guy pisses her off, it's like, oh, that fat, tiny dick motherfucker. Like, it's like you can't, or even like talking about Trump and talking about him being fat. It's like, if you are about men's body positivity and that not being an insult, it can only, like, it's not, oh, but my friends, you know what I mean? It's like that goes for everyone. And I think also what happens is you see a girl or even another guy cussing someone else. Even if you know you're friends with that person, you're like, oh, but if ever I get on the bad side of that person, he's going to go after all my things that I'm insecure about. And I think that's where we need to be a bit more careful.
I think humans are just like that, aren't we?
How do you mean?
As in that same example, for people we hate, we'll cuss them out, but do the opposite, you know? I think it's such a human thing to do that, which is not it's not good, but I think
but it's understandable.
Like that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it's a tough one. But I just think it's something to try. Like, that's what I do. I'm definitely not perfect. Like, I was behind like the mental health and all this stuff, and I'm laughing at Tory Lane's height. Like, it happened. Do you know what I mean? And I caught myself because I'm laughing at it, and I was making a joke about it. I was like, I think it was with Jen or someone. I was like, oh, you see this shit? This guy's short as fuck. And then I'm like, oh fuck, I'm doing the same thing that I'm pissed off about other people for doing. But so
it was the shock factor, though, isn't it? I didn't expect him to be that short.
And then there's the video of him standing up and remaining the same height. Like, it is. That's the annoying thing as well. It is funny.
Yeah.
But it's then you realize, like, okay, what if? I mean, it's different. Also, like celebrities, you can hide behind the fact that you think they're never going to hear you. But it's like, imagine being him and getting that roasted that much.
Multiplied by millions of people.
Yeah. And then the Kanye thing, same situation. You know, like. I think I've been surprised at how nice people have been about that. There's been a lot of people being understanding about him. But I think this is like, there's still a lot of memes and stuff, and it's like, are we about mental health or not? You know?
Yeah.
But yeah. What was I going to say as well? How do you feel about let's say like the dance scene's reaction to the Black Lives Matter stuff? How did you feel about that?
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
It was hard to tell who was actually jumping on the bandwagon. Obviously, for me, there's different reactions for what I expect from black people and what I expect from the, what do you call them? The allies.
I thought you were going to say white people. I was like, you can just say it. Like, that's fine.
Like the allies and stuff.
Yeah.
Like black people, obviously, I expect to be going in full force. I mean, they should have been like that anyway.
Right.
And it was good and also bad when the allies were helping.
Okay.
You know?
That's interesting.
Because people think, oh, it's the great thing. But it felt painful because it took all of this for people to realize there was an issue. So it kind of brought things like, yo, what do you think we've been trying to do for so many years talking about these kind of issues? Like, were you that blind to it? So it was good, but at the same time, it was like, fuck, did this really have to happen? So I don't know.
It highlighted everything they haven't been saying up until now.
Yeah, and how bad it was. Like, I knew it, but it was even worse by the amount of people that started talking about stuff. It was like, oh, so people have a voice, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people who are supporting this thing, but they weren't before. But it took the death of George Floyd for people to open their mouths and stuff. And that it was a bit stressful seeing that, even though people would probably think, oh, that's a good thing, that people are waking up.
Right. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Basically.
It's great that you're doing it, but where have you been up to now?
Basically, yeah. And yeah, the dance scene, I think, is very hype. You know what I'm saying? They jump on the hype and then after
UK
a while,
or
they
just
go,
well?
in general?
Yeah.
Because obviously on my feed, I have people all over the world. And it's it was a hype thing. I expect that from normal people.
Okay.
But dancers who are meant to be about culture, I expected a bit better, you know?
How do you differentiate between hype and like let's say like a real ally or a real person who's posting genuinely?
I guess consistency is one clear indicator. It's not really, it's hard to know really on Instagram whether someone really cares or not. But obviously one of the first things is to see consistency. Like after the hype's gone, people are still kind of trying to raise awareness. Other than that, it's really hard on the internet to really know anything. But like I said, the only clear indicator that I can really have is that people are being consistent with their posting, or maybe trying to ask questions. Like people might come to me and ask me something, which is good and bad, because it then becomes tiring, always having to explain the same thing again and again.
I think that's something people need to be aware of if they're not. Because I knew that for a long time. So I think for me, it kind of was common sense in a way. But I think especially if you haven't been told that before, like using black people as a like resource isn't always the most fair. You know what I mean? Especially when it's like they're not just fountains of knowledge, but like they live through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So it's a bit different because it's not just like, oh, tell me about this thing that you're educated about. It's like, tell me about this thing that you've experienced every day.
It's like, I have to go dig into my experience, which is painful.
Yeah.
Because a lot of black people don't really know anything like intellectually about the black suffering or whatever, but they know it through experience. So when you ask someone to talk about it, they might not know anything in intellectual. They just have to talk about themselves, and it hurts. Yeah.
What was it? What did I originally ask you?
How the dance scene reacted to the Black Lives Matter thing. Yeah.
I mean, it's tough, I think, speaking from I'm a little bit older, and I also posted about this, but like this isn't necessarily a new topic for me. It's not the first time I've thought about this stuff. This is going to sound like I've got black friends, but like the guys I grew up with were all like the four guys who were like my closest friends from when I was about 12 or 13 were all like or like their parents had moved over from Africa.
Right.
So after they were born, basically. So I learned a lot about this. I remember having these conversations when I was about 14, 15, and me being like, like I've got a friend that's from Swaziland, and I remember having a conversation at a very young age, like, nah, people aren't gonna like ignore your job application because your name is African. No way. And I remember him being like, bro, like listen, like quite young. So I think also that and a bit of emotional maturity and age like made me not feel so much pressure. Because I'm quite secure in that aspect of myself. I'm quite secure and confident in who I am. But I think I can imagine being younger or just not as educated or secure in yourself. I can imagine feeling the pressure to jump on the bandwagon,
right.
Let's say. If you realize like, and this is where I think it's hard, is like, hard relatively, not hard compared to being a black person. But I mean, like, just if you're an ally and you're realize you haven't done enough, what do you do? And I'm not asking you to give me an answer necessarily, but the question is, what do you do that isn't perceived as jumping on the bandwagon, but you have kind of woken up and been like, oh, fuck, I should have been saying stuff. I should have been doing something. What do I do? And I think this is where like pressuring people to post on social media isn't really doing anything, because then they're just, it's guilt driven and they're just posting. That's when I think the bandwagon happens.
Right.
It's guilt driven and you're just posting little graphics on your Insta story. And realistically,
what's actually changed?
Yeah. And the other thing I was talking about is like people are posting like stuff, like quotes from books and stuff, like 2 days into this thing happening. It's like, did you finish the book? Like, did you, or like people are ordering books and then posting that they've ordered the book and they're like, oh, educating. And it's like, okay, read it first.
Yeah,
like,
then say something.
Yeah, like you might disagree with the book. Like, not to say that everything that is about, like, not every activist book is 100% not correct, but also like you're not going to maybe agree with some parts of it.
Yeah, it's a point of view of someone most of the time. So.
Yeah. So, and you don't know, you might be like, oh, I knew all of this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing new in this book.
Yeah.
So I think this is like, it's like, again, going back to like being able to post something flashy. It's like, I think that's where, for me, a lot of the bandwagon stuff comes from, is like, guilt or, people wanting to be part of it. I personally didn't agree with like, again, like people might cuss me for this, but I didn't agree with people, allies, let's say, posting pictures of themselves at the protest. Like, I posted pictures of the protest.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a little bit of a leeway in sense of that because I'm a photographer.
Yeah.
And my aim was to get pictures into the world of what's happening. And I only went with that. I didn't make any money from those pictures. I didn't, if someone asked for that, like I've sent them out to a few people who were in the pictures that I didn't know that contacted me. Haven't charged anyone for anything.
Those pictures were powerful, man.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
They're definitely more powerful than people posing with posters and with the...
This is my thing.
And I didn't do that shit.
Yeah, and I think the thing, I would never... I think it's completely different for black people. I think I can never be in a position to suggest how black people should participate. I think in terms of allies, I can. And I think the one thing that's important is decentering yourself from the story. It's not about us. Even my pictures, I was never the... Like, it doesn't... I don't care that I took it. I just wanted it. Like, I didn't put my logo on none of them. I just take them world, take these, you know, and see what's happening. So that was my good intentions anyway. But yeah, I think that I don't agree with that sort of stuff of like posting pictures of yourself. It's like, okay, we like your post is saying you helped, not this thing is happening, which is different, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's hard because also these same people, the other side of the coin is these same people may feel a pressure to, or the pressure of what did you do? And that might be their answer. Oh, I was there. I did something. Like, don't cuss me, you know, like, which is hard because, again, tell me your thoughts on this, but I think the hardest pressure is the balance between doing something, but also like wanting to show your black friends that you did something. Because I think that's a pressure. And I think it's like, it's hard when people that you've grown up with, like, for example, me, I was very strong in like, I only posted certain things about it and I refused to post other stuff because I feel in my heart, and again, I can always be challenged on this, but I feel like I'm on a good path and I've been thinking about this for a while and not on a good path in the sense of I don't want to change. Again, it sounds like I'm defending myself, but I'm not on a path. My path isn't that I don't want to change. My path is to look for the best path. Right. And I feel like I've been looking for the best path on this topic for a while. And I've been like, I've always had a sense of like, I'm not doing enough. And so when this came, I'm like, I know I'm not doing enough. Like I've been thinking that. So I think the danger with the way I went about this was that any of my friends who maybe are outside of my close circle could look at me and go, you're not doing shit. Like you're not posting, you're not doing nothing. And I haven't posted anything to prove that to them. So they could think of me and be like, oh, fuck Luke, he hasn't been doing nothing. And I think that's tough because you have to reconcile what's in your heart with the accusation or the judgment that it's like, I don't want them to think I'm not doing anything, so maybe let me post just to let everyone know. And it's like, what's the right answer in that situation, you know?
It's hard, isn't it? I mean, I'm definitely guilty of maybe trying to guilt trip people.
Right.
But it was partly a joke.
Okay.
And partly serious at the same time.
In terms of what?
When I was making the stories about, if you haven't posted about Black Lives Matter, I'm going to delete you from my feed. And it was just, I mean, I was already in the process of clearing out my Instagram anyway. And yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? It's like, for me, it was like, if you do have a platform to reach people and there are certain topics that maybe should be expressed, then why wouldn't you do it? If you can just, even if you can reach one person, then it's great. Not that I was trying to guilt trip people, but it's what I expect as humans, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if there's like the Yemen crisis, for example, it's like, I'm not really connected to any of them, but it's like, if I can reach one person to donate some shit, I'm going to post it because I have the following. So it's more like that rather than, you know, you have to post because I'm black, you know?
I feel it. And I also think the nuance in that is that social media, you're not saying you're a shit person. I didn't see the post, so maybe you did say that. But
No.
like you're allowed to have on your social media who you want. And if you want to curate your circle to be, I only want to see people who are vocal about these things, and that's up to you. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's also worth saying.
Yeah.
So I don't disagree with that. But yeah, I guess my point is like, it's tough to navigate how to not jump on the bandwagon. But you know, if you haven't been doing something, or even if you have, it's tough to be like, what do I do? Do I just post to keep people happy? But I think for me, the main bottom line is anything you're doing helping. Like I would rather, if I had to choose between a lot of my friends being like, you're not doing anything, but I know in my heart I've made moves in the right direction and I am helping. I'd rather that than having never made a move, but everyone thinks I've done stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess the ideal balance would be somewhere in between.
Basically, because your life is basically almost like your Instagram profile.
Yeah.
Like it's part of your digital life, and most people only see that. So it's hard, isn't it? Like to think, okay, I'm going to do stuff behind closed doors. No one's going to see it, and everyone's just going to assume that maybe I'm not doing anything because I haven't posted anything. So it is definitely a difficult thing. Even I felt that. Being black.
Really?
You know,
do you feel a pressure as a black person that you have some sort of responsibility to respond in a certain way? And
like
really?
even as the hype has died down.
Yeah.
In the beginning, so even I can say that I jumped on the bandwagon.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I went full into it when everything was popping off. And obviously now it's slowed down. But for me, it slowed down differently because posting and seeing that stuff has negative effects on me personally.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? So I have slowed down as well, not because
it's going back to the mental health thing.
Yeah, not because I've jumped. I mean, I've always been on the wagon, not the band one.
Yeah.
So
the different wagon. Yeah,
the different wagon. So, but yeah, I did feel a bit of pressure now that I'm going not back to normal, but trying to find a balance. Even I'm like, shit, am I posting too much regular stuff? Nah, maybe I should post certain. To try and change people's...
Is that a pressure from yourself or other people or society?
Myself, maybe.
Okay, you're just like trying to think if you're doing the right thing for yourself.
Yeah.
And you don't feel like, oh, if I don't post enough, like people are gonna question me on it, or
it's nice. I feel like I might miss out on helping someone or changing something. Because I feel like I have quite a strong voice in different circles. And it's like that normal post that I did, if I posted about something else, I could have maybe helped someone out. And it's like a missed opportunity, maybe.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think also my thing on like the posting of stuff on social media, again, going back to like mental health and stuff like that, is like, it's a fucking rough time in the world. Like that cannot be stated enough. It is a tough time. And I think that's me as a white guy in a first world country saying so it's like for sure gets worse from here.
Yeah, definitely.
From here downwards it gets worse, you know. And I think my thing was always like, okay, I don't I get the power of social media. My question is, imagine you're someone who is active in life, and is like, let's say you're a black guy. Just imagine for a second. No, but if you, a hypothetical black guy who not only lives it and has the negative experiences associated with that, but they also do things to help. So they're donating, they're out at protests, they're, doing all the things that they can be doing.
Yeah.
My thing is that, do they want to come home, scroll through Insta and see
the same stuff they just been living.
End racism and all these things, which is like, for me, that doesn't help. Like, I mean, a graphic saying end racism, okay. It's like the racist president just goes, oh, they said end racism, better end that shit. Like, I get like sharing petitions, stuff like that. But these graphics, it's like just another thing in people's life, which, like, for example, that type of person, or it can be an ally as well, but with a black person, it's like you also have the added layer of living that.
Yeah.
It's like you might want to come home and just see a hot girl in yoga pants, or like see a judge demo.
Just switch off.
Do you know what I mean?
The
like
real world.
I've experienced that even just with lockdown, like without the Black Lives Matter stuff. It's like, even I'm just like, yeah, I get that people are dying from corona and these things are happening and the world is a shit place. Like, can I see a judge demo, please? Like, do you know? Like, I just want to see someone dance. And like, I'm missing it. Like, I used to be like, oh, I don't really care or whatever. But now I don't have it. And we don't have all these events. It's like, it doesn't have to be a distraction from the cause. It's just a break, you know? And I think mental health wise, we all need a break sometimes. Like,
definitely.
Yeah. So I think for me, that's my thing, is like, I think it's not always a bad thing to have social media be a break, especially if you don't live your entire life on social media. True. Some people out there doing real shit. And then like I said, they want to come home and see some cool shit. They want to see the art that you did. I want to watch, even though your film is on the topic, like, I want to watch your film. I want to, like, if you were like, I'm not posting any of my art because this stuff matters. It's like, but there's other routes in, there's other uses for social media and stuff like that. So I think that's, important to say. What do you have any thoughts on the topic of people being guests in the hip hop culture and stuff like that? I mean, I know you have thoughts. Do you have any that you want to share?
It's very difficult, man. Like, obviously my stance on it from the beginning of my career or dance journey is very different from how it is now.
Okay.
Like, back then it was very like straightforward. Blacks are owners, or, what I'm saying, we inherit the culture, and everyone else is a guest.
Okay.
Whereas now it's like almost everyone is a guest.
Interesting.
I consider black people to be a guest too. For me, they get half, right? They're like extended family. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously the people that created it went through shit to create these stars, and we as black people go through the same shit no matter where we are. Yeah. Like the social circumstances or political circumstances in creating hip hop, we also experience at the same time. So that gives us our pass to be extended family. But in terms of paying dues and learning history and being political about black things, hip hop things, to help push the culture forward and help protect it, is something black people have to do as well as the guest. So for me, you can't just be like, oh, I'm black, and sit back and enjoy the culture. Right. Because to me, you just being a culture vulture at the same time. Like,
so you feel like you can kind of lose your pass if you don't use it, kind of like if you don't earn it.
Yeah, like we shouldn't be able to just sit down and be like, yeah, I don't need to do nothing for the culture because I am the culture.
So what? I have two questions. First one is what does it consist of to do something for the culture? And if that's the case, that you think, like, say, a black person that doesn't do these things for the culture kind of moves into the realm of being a guest because they're not part of it, does that also mean someone who's not black can be more of a part of the culture? Like, if someone who's black isn't doing anything, do they, where does that lie for you?
Oh man, it's difficult, man. It's hard to really say.
Yeah, that's fine.
Wait, what's the first question?
What does it consist of to do or not do something for the culture?
I mean, to get political about the dance is definitely important, because obviously the UK was so big back in the day about not being political and just dance, and that always annoyed me.
How do you mean by political?
The politics, innit? Like, keep the politics out of dance, but it's like hip hop, especially like street dance, is very political.
Right.
Like how it came about. So it is important to talk about these things.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting political about the dance and understanding the circumstances of what happened and how you can protect the culture and stuff like this is, for me, like how you do your due diligence to the thing that you're learning. It is important to understand that. And I think a lot of people tend to stop at the names of steps.
I am so with you. Yeah. I honestly think that this was maybe a mistake / mistranslation of, let's say, like, not you, but like that movement that we had in like from 2010, or like this period of like know your history kind of thing. I think what that's come out to be for a lot of people is, if you can name all the steps and where they come from,
more hip hop steps you can name,
yeah,
the more you are in the culture.
Yeah, the more you are in the culture, or the more you're allowed to teach or whatever.
Yeah.
I personally don't agree with that, but yeah, continue with what you're saying. Sorry.
Yeah. What's my point?
What you can do to be part of it. You said the politics and understanding stuff about the culture.
Yeah. And I mean, I probably may have contributed to that misinterpretation, but if people really paid attention, it was in the end to be political about it. And for me, the journey was to, if you learn the steps of the style, and you learn the social circumstances, how the steps were created, you're almost inherently going to learn about the issues, the political issues that happened. Yeah. And then that leads you into this black shit, you know, that you know what I'm saying? And that was the kind of the timeline that I was trying to do. But obviously some people just got stuck at the foundation. And then
I think also, like, this is one thing that's always pissed me off is I've had a few conversations with this about this with people, but like people, a lot of hip hop dance, and especially when it comes from like allies or non-allies, just not non-black people. Yeah. When they're talking about know your history, a lot of times they're talking about knowing the steps. Yeah. And it's like, but you're not talking about the history of hip hop. You're talking about steps, vocab within hip hop. You're not talking. You don't know nothing about the civil rights movement or the state of New York at the cultural background of how these things started. Not to say that I'm an expert, but I'm also not. You know what I mean? Like when you're preaching, like everybody's got to know their history, It's like you've got to know, you've got to be able to back up what you're talking about. Yeah. And I think knowing your history is way more than knowing steps and vocab. I think it's definitely knowing the history of the style. Yeah. And that, again, this is going back to like posting a quote after reading half a book. It's like there's a lot to understand. So take a deep breath and you know. So you were saying that. That's a lot of what constitutes being part of the culture, kind of thing. So how...
What's your second question?
How does that equate to
can
someone black or someone white? Yeah.
Yeah, man. If I feel like a guest or a non-black person puts in all that effort, for me, they definitely... and a pass, like they invite to the barbecue, innit?
Get a plate at the cookout.
Yeah, basically. It's so difficult to really explain it. You know what I'm saying? Because
I think there's no right answer.
Yeah, right or wrong answer. But I can feel like black people can be culture vultures of their own culture, if that even is a thing. Like, because they, like, definitely black people can eat off the culture that is like connected to their skin color or whatever, right? And not give nothing back. And that's kind of what we're blaming non-black people for. And it's like you're doing exactly the same thing as these culture vultures, these white culture vultures that you're saying, like, you're just eating off the culture, and it's like, but you're doing the same thing.
Only thing I would ask is, I wonder if it's the same as, like, if we use the metaphor of like, if I move into my mum's house, I don't have to pay rent. But if you move into my mum's house, you should offer some rent. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how I see it. Of like, it's like, okay, you might not be giving back, but it's your house. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you don't. There's some. I don't know where the answer lies, but maybe there's some level of, like, you don't. But like, you don't have to give the same back as I have to give, I guess.
Of course, but if your mum is a single mother, for example, and she's struggling to pay rent.
Yeah.
I'm going to contribute to my mom's rent.
Truth. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
feel you. Yeah, I think also maybe that's like, because then also it's like, say if we use your house, like if your mom's a single mom and you move back in, you don't have to pay rent. But then if I move in, I should pay rent or whatever. It's also not up to me to tell you to pay rent to your own mom.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, that's a conversation for you and your family to have.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so I think, because I think this is a lot. I've heard people having this conversation. I think a lot of people from both sides, like black people and non-black people, are having this question about what it means to be a part of the culture or not a part of the culture, or be a culture vulture. Because also it's like, where would you see I think it depends on where we define the limits of the culture, because also it's like, you are very about this culture. I would say, like, let's say specifically street dance culture, you're very about that culture, but you didn't grow up in the 70s in New York.
No.
So one could be like, you're a guest in the, you know what I mean? But then it's like,
sure.
Then if we extend the parameters of what the culture is, then it starts to include you, but it doesn't include me.
Right.
Then if we extend it even more, and then we talk about London's version of hip hop and how grime started. Like, I grew up in the era where grime, like I was like my early teens when grime started, and I was very not in the main, I was never hanging around Kano, but like it was the way I grew up, like people going to do radio sets and we'd go hang out, and like I was definitely a part of that culture in some shape or form. So then it depends on where we stop those parameters of what the culture is and when you are and aren't involved in it. And I think there's some people that are super strict about it and are like, if you're not from New York in the 70s, you're not.
Then you're not
a part of it.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Anyone after that point is a guest, and it's like, okay.
So I get it, but then at the same time, it's like, you know.
Yeah.
Because they're very protective of their culture and how it's been taken and changed and stuff like that. So it's like the Lifey guys, isn't it?
You're right.
Like they're super protective of the culture, like
probably because they've seen what's happened.
And they don't want it to repeat.
Yeah.
And like even people in New York. Don't want to say names. You probably know what I'm talking about. But so even people in New York, like older generation of hip hop, started teaching light feet, and then the light feet guys got pissed.
So they've seen it happen to them, and they still did it to someone else.
Yeah,
that's fun.
It's hilarious, bro.
Damn. I think also my question would be whether because this has always been my view, is that the best thing I can do for hip hop culture is to be authentic. And I didn't grow up in New York in the 70s. Funnily enough, I did live in New York when I was a kid. That doesn't count. But I mean, I never knew anything about fucking hip hop when I was in New York. I was like 8. But yeah, like I didn't grow up in this area. I didn't grow up in poor areas anyway. A lot of these things, like I'm from London. I'm not like, I mean, I'm half American, but I don't associate with American hip hop culture as much as I do with grime and London. Like I grew up on Kano and stuff like that. So my thing is to not pretend. I think that's almost doing more of a disservice for me to be like when you see people that try to be American, for the culture and they're in their Kangol hats and I'm like, you're making a costume out of an era that people actually lived. It's not something like, I always have my test in my head is, would you wear that to a family occasion? It's like, if you don't, like the way I dress, I will dress this like this when I'm with my mum and when I'm battling and like maybe not at a wedding, but you know what I mean? Like this is how I dress. So I have to make it authentic. And I think that I try to do the same with my dance. I try to do the same with the way I am in the culture, like the music I listen to. I don't force myself to, I know all the songs by Tupac. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, I think for me, the way I reconcile it in my head is like, what's the most authentic I can be to this culture and not pretend I'm not, I am what I'm not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get you.
But yeah, and I think for me, that's what I was going to ask you is, how do you see the changing of the culture? Do you think it should be allowed to change? Do you think it needs to stay one way in terms of dance, music, anything?
Well, it's inevitably going to change, no matter what we do, isn't it?
But where does that line come between disrespecting the origins and just innovating and moving forward?
You run out of time.
No, just checking on the time. We're all good.
Yeah, it's gonna change anyway, but I guess it's just like not forgetting where things came from, and obviously always understanding where that struggle came from to create these things. And obviously, as long as people are respectful of where it came from and pay their dues, you know.
What does that mean to be respectful of where it came from? How do we do it?
I think like paying dues obviously is probably the best way to express it. Like obviously learning about the struggle.
Okay.
And once you learn about the struggle, you understand what those certain people went through to create those things under the circumstances. And then that almost, I don't know if it would just turn you into an activist, but it would make you more aware of what happened and maybe pay more attention to how you do a service to the culture while you're benefiting from it at the same time, if you know what I mean.
Are we still talking dance specific or in general?
I think I'm talking in general.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's say like, I mean, at the moment, most of the audience is dancers. So as a younger dancer, how would you give advice to someone that wants to be a part of the culture respectfully? Or the scene, however.
I try to think without reacting.
That's right. No, it's good. It's definitely not an easy.
Yeah, it's not easy because obviously it's my point of view. It could be
for sure. Yeah.
People may have different.
Yeah, obviously we're not asking for the law. Just
it's the law,
what you think, what you would see is like, this is how I would go about it. I have my own opinion, but I'll ask you.
Of course. I guess as a dancer, for me, it was always understanding the style and what made up the style, what steps made up the style and stuff. And in the beginning, it was very lean towards knowing the steps and knowing where they came from and stuff like that. But then eventually went to the circumstances of how it was created and the people and the times that they lived through. I think understanding those things is definitely important for your dance, because a lot of people said is like, if you understand where the step came from, it's going to make you a better dancer. And I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah, I completely I always get this wrong. This is showing my ignorance in hip hop. There's a step that like they were saying in the New School Dictionary that used to be like when they were robbing someone or something. Do you know the one I mean? Yeah, this one. I forget the name.
Go Rambo.
Okay. Like me knowing that is irrelevant to anything in my current life. Like there's no parties I'm going to go to where I'm robbing anyone. There's no battles where that comes up as when we're talking about the way you structure moves on music and how that relates, I think that's quite a relevant thing. But knowing that step is or knowing the history of that doesn't change how your dance, the effect of your dance, because that's quite a very specific cultural scenario that again, it's like, unless you're going to go out and recreate robbing people,
then
you're just dancing. So, and you're kind of doing this thing. So I think it's,
that faking the funk thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But you're saying like knowing the steps doesn't make you a better dancer.
No, not at all. And I think a lot of people did believe that in the beginning.
And I think that also translates into the way people dance. They're just showing off all the steps they know. And I'm like, but it's still not great. Like,
it's still
still boring.
Low level.
You can be shit and knowledgeable.
Yeah,
that's very possible. Like being more knowledgeable doesn't make you better.
No, not at all. Because when people were kind of thinking that in the beginning, I was like, but there's loads of dance. Let's say some French dancers, for example, who don't know the names of these steps but are banging them out super sick.
Right.
It's like, so where does that? Where does that make sense? And I think the more I went, I was always in the hip hop culture kind of thing before dance. Like I loved all the music beforehand. Right. So it wasn't like I was being a dancer then trying to understand the culture. I felt that I was already understanding that culture and just applying it to myself. So I think, like you said about being authentic, if you go through that, learning the steps, the circumstances, the people, the political circumstance, whatever circumstance, and you realize what made them walk like this, what made them move like this, you know what I mean? And then you take that and then you try to apply it to how you came up. You know what I'm saying? So adapting that hip hop feeling and think, how do I mix it with me? It's like, we didn't dance like this. We were like this, and it was skanky.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, how do I connect that and become authentic while still giving the learning, or I say paying homage, but keeping authentic to the way it was created, as well as being authentic to myself and kind of bringing it together. So I'm not trying to fake being American only. I still want to represent where I come from, you know? That's an influence that I'm trying to add on top of.
I think it's like you can find the difference between, I'm trying to think of, who's a UK rapper that raps like he's American?
Don't know, to be honest. Like, do we have any? They
Like,
must have some.
Put it this way, like, or you know, Summer's Chipmunk songs when he did with like Chris Brown and stuff. The very American style. It's like there's a difference between that type of style as opposed to someone like Kano or Wiley, or people who obviously was influenced by American rap, but also there were so many things that went into the creation of the way they are that's like, okay, we're taking this as part of our influence and doing our own thing with it, as opposed to like trying to copy a sound, which I mean, that's a whole nother topic, because I think people like Chipmunk need to do that to break through the American market.
True.
But it's not a music podcast. So. But yeah, I mean, like, that's how I would see the difference. Like when you see someone dance and I'm like, you're not from where you're from. You're just dancing like you're Elite Force or whoever. Do you know what I mean? Like and it's, for me, I'm like, oh, you're just your whole, or you don't have an identity, but your whole identity is to try and show like, oh, I'm like valid
and
and
hip-hop.
And I think for me also, like, again, this is just my opinion on it, but it's going back to the authenticity thing, is that like the most authentic thing you can do is to be yourself and bring your own influences into it. I think I spoke about this with Ice a bit on the podcast, but like like it's actually doing less of a service to the culture to try and just
imitate.
Just imitate and just put on a show of like.
Then you become like a caricature or something of hip hop.
Yeah, and I think this is for me again where I won't get too much into this because we've got to finish soon, but like where the line of cultural appropriation comes. Because I've always seen it as if you're wearing it like a costume, like if it's part of your identity or part of your natural influence, like I don't see anything wrong with anyone enjoying any part of a culture. I think when it becomes, oh, I'm putting on this Kangol hat and this Adidas tracksuit and these Stan Smiths or whatever, or Superstars, and then it's like you're doing like, oh yeah, I'm hip hop.
I'm hip hop.
And then you're like, oh, my mum's calling. Hello, mum. You know.
Go back to normal.
Yeah, or you take it off and put on your normal clothes to go and have a family meal. It's like you're taking off a costume, and I think the reason why that's cultural appropriation for me is that the people who actually live this culture can't take it off. No. And a lot of times it goes into the realm of not blackface, but it's that type of thing where it's like you're using someone's lifestyle and culture as a costume. And I think that's the difference for me anyway, where I make peace with it, is like, if I see someone, I'm like, you're just enjoying the culture and you're part of it. But when you see someone being two different people, and that's like, that's not you, that's a character that you're playing. Like that, what was that chick that was on Britain's Got Talent, or one of them, Honey G, or do you know the one I'm talking about? Yeah, if you don't know who I'm talking about, Google it. But like this chick, Honey G, is like, that's such a, like, you are not that person when you go to the shops in the morning. Like, you're not waking up and putting on that's a costume for TV, and that's where it comes close to like minstrel show kind of blackface type of thing.
Modern day.
yeah. So anyway, that would be my opinion on it.
No, agree.
All right, last thing before we wrap up.
Okay.
Top 5 hip hop dancers in the UK.
In the UK?
Yours.
I'm the worst person to ask for these kind of things.
But it can be totally opinion based.
Because my standard for good is really high and critical, like personally for me. I would always put myself at number one. No matter what I do.
Can't be competitive without doing that.
No. For hip hop and house, like straight number one.
All right, come for him if you come for Kashmir in the comments if you disagree. Yeah.
Number 2.
It doesn't have to be in order.
Oh,
just 5.
Oh, okay.
Let's make it like specific so that I don't get cussed. But hip hop battle dancers.
I would put Ice, Evian, Kieran.
I was having trouble with the last spot.
Say it again.
I thought the same 4, and then I was thinking who would be my 5th.
Yeah, bro, it's a hard one, you know, because I'm super petty in it. So if I dislike someone,
you find it hard to give them their flowers.
Yeah. And
don't be a hater. Come on, who's good? I think also it depends on what you're going by. If we're going by wins or if we're going by just style, like I think we have to go by success and wins.
Oh yeah, but man, it's hard to even like. It's so difficult, man. Because obviously I'm gonna judge from the beginning. Yeah. Because obviously there's a lot of new people that came out that are dope. Yeah. I don't really know them, and I don't know if they haven't really done many battles compared to how much we've done from back then.
Yeah.
But who I'm really feeling, fuck. But I don't know, man.
If you had, all right, so say we give the 5th spot to your favorite person who's maybe not like. Who do you see that's like maybe not at the level of like winning stuff and like competing with the other 4 that you listed, but is like style wise or potential wise, you're like, oh
yeah. It's like there's quite a few.
Man,
people.
he can't even get past 4 good people.
No, there's probably more that I'm just not thinking of.
Yeah, that's the hard thing. I put you on the spot.
Yeah, on the spot, like I forget. But there's so many people that I would say that are in the realm of like good hip hop. Like I would say Kofi's in there. I would say. Like people that I never really knew before, but are knowing now. Like, I would put obviously April being there. Sheldon would be in there. Like, I like him. He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know him before till he came back. He's good. Kieran is Kieran.
Oh yeah. Proverbs, yeah.
But I know there's more. But so if I don't say your name, then it's peak. But
yeah, I mean, there's definitely some like. We're not going to remember everyone.
Yeah. I probably, as soon as this is off, I'll be like, oh yeah, but.
What about, I like, style-wise, I like the PDK guys, Johnny and Mikey. I think in terms of, if we're talking like people that have potential to be good kind of thing. I think also the thing with the UK scene is that there's a lot of people that I think could be dope, but have other avenues that make more money.
Yes.
And it's like you get people like I feel like I don't know their lives. They're like gonna cuss me for talking about it, but like people like Mikey and Johnny, I'm like I feel like they're making more money off like being cool ass guys and fucking models and like they're the sexy crew.
Because I remember when they were kind of coming up, and they were like obviously they had potential and stuff, but probably the battle scene wasn't really where they wanted to go.
Yeah. And I mean, they've done well. Like they got to the finals of Just the UK a couple of times, and so I think they've shown that they've got potential. But yeah, again, it's like when I also think it's like there's so many people that don't even give the battle scene time, you know. But if they did, they'd be fire. Like, creativity wise or whatever. All right, so we'll leave the last spot open. All right, give me who would be your top 5 worldwide?
Worldwide?
Yeah.
In hip hop?
Yeah. Interested to see what sort of like people you like.
IC would definitely be number 1 spot.
Yeah.
Alex the Cage is in there too. Junior Boogie is there. People probably don't know who he is now because he came and went real quick.
Oh, really? Okay.
But yeah, Canadian dancer. Nyako would definitely be there. I'm gonna put myself in there. Worldwide, I don't give a fuck.
All right.
Who else? There's others as well.
Is that 5?
Yeah, that's 5, isn't it?
IC, Alex, Nyako, Junior Boogie,
and
yourself.
Yeah.
If you have to take yourself out, who would you
myself out.
Who would you replace yourself with?
So many.
Is this judging on like personal style, like what you like? Or is it,
probably what I like. I would probably have to go with Link as well because not only is he a dope dancer, but he's also influenced a lot of who I am.
Right.
And
So in
what
terms
I've
of like
learned.
personal impact on you kind of thing.
Yeah. So he's definitely going to be in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's my 5.
Interesting. It's not a bad 5 though. Like there's other people I'd put in that tier.
Yeah.
Like I'd put Feist up there.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, again, I'd put. Again, yeah, I think it depends on because there's different generations as well. Like
Yeah.
someone like Feist influenced me when I was coming up. Someone like Alex didn't, but now because I feel like he's similar like generation in terms of like time wise to us.
Yeah.
But he's like one of my favorite people to watch. So it's like I'd put him in the top 5 for how good I think he is, but in terms of impact on me,
Okay. Yeah.
he didn't have any impact until I was already like 25 or however old.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, who else is up there? You know who I really fucking like a lot is Zico and Deacons.
Yeah, they got some sick shit. Bro.
They are who I wish I was. Like
The ideas they come up with, like, why didn't I think of that shit?
yeah, and you know what I love? I love, and going back to like the authenticity in hip hop, I love specialists. I love like you've got your shit
specialize
and
in the
you're
thing. Yeah,
like
yeah, that's-
you go in on it. You're not trying to please everyone. It's like this is the shit that we like doing, and if you like it, cool. If you don't,
then
fuck
fuck
off.
it.
Yeah. Like even like Philip Chabib and you know those guys that like you just go in on one thing or even like Alex with the floor work. I mean, he's got way more than that, but he's a specialist in floor work.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, like you show me who you are, you know, as opposed to like,
your
I'm just
identity
another.
within it. Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's a lot of like speaks to their success, I think,
Yeah,
because they chose a lane and got good at it.
Stayed there. Yep.
Salar's another example of that, not in
yeah.
hip hop, but
yeah.
you pick a lane and stay with it. Even the twins is like, if you don't cave and try and please everyone that says you're not good at one thing or another.
Yeah.
This has always been my thing, like trying to do that. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there because
Cool.
we're getting.
It's good because I need toilet, boy.
I'll swear.
Yeah, bro. This tea is like gone straight through me. I'm just here shaking and shit. So I'm gonna piss myself.
Caffeine's
Any
hitting you as
longer.
well. All right. Yeah, I'll let you get off. If everyone's tuned in, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Leave comments if you disagree. If you just don't like Kashmir. If you think I'm sexy, like no, leave comments. Subscribe. Yeah, tune in. I'm gonna keep these going now.
Definitely keep them going. They're good.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, man. That's super
Something
nice
that's
to hear.
needed. Something I probably would have wanted to do, but I ain't got the patience for it.
Well, yeah, that's like I want to. That's why I want to do it with guests as opposed to me just talking,
Right.
because it's like giving other people who may not have a chance to put all that effort into doing it. It's like you can have your opinions and you can come back whenever and stuff. So yeah, thanks to Kashmir for being here. Check out his film. Say the name of the film again.
Kiwewe Nyeusi.
Yeah, on Vimeo.
Vimeo. You just get the links in my Instagram bio.
Cool. And yeah, check that out for sure. It's definitely worth a watch.
And Konoha Training Academy.
Konoha Training Academy. Yeah, we didn't get onto like talking so much about the teaching and stuff,
all
but
good.
yeah, check out Kashmir's Insta for sure. Like, I would legit recommend you as a teacher. Like, I'm not just saying that because you're good. Like, there's a lot of people that are good that I wouldn't recommend personally, but I've actually like learned so much from you over the years. So I would definitely recommend taking his classes. Yeah, keep locked to the YouTube and the Spotify and all that. And thank you to the Lucky Club for having us.
Thank you.
Don't think I've got anything else more to say. So until next time.
Next time.
Peace out. Yeah.
Peace out.